I suspect through the meeting we'll continue to have people pop in, but I wanted to say welcome. It's 2026. Holy cow. I see a lot of familiar faces. Great to have you back. Um, I'm guessing there's some brand new folks in here, and we'll get to some introductions. Not crazy, like embarrassing, but just, yes, I'm a new beekeeper, and quick, what are you looking for immediately? I'll start with saying I have a slide deck that has every slide from January. Typically, the cadence of meetings is we meet in the middle of the month. And in the middle of the month, you would have watched the videos from the first of the month to the middle of the month. And then we meet at the end of the month, and you would watch the videos from the middle of the month to the end of the month. And each time we come back, if you're a new beekeeper, you have watched those videos on your own time. And then we can answer any questions that you have about them. The hopefully, timing wise, the videos make sense in the content that they give you leading up and through and into and out of the beekeeping season for next year, this year. If you're brand new, the first thing I have to say is hallelujah, serendipity, good for you. You're here in January. You're going to find when you come to this meeting that the Brady Bunch wall that you're looking at gets a lot bigger come April when everybody shows up and says, I want to start beekeeping. And they should have their equipment painted and all of those things. So, given it's the first meeting and maybe you did or didn't watch the videos for the new folks, one of the things that I'll say to you is you have plenty of time, but don't procrastinate. Figure out what you're going to buy, figure out where you're going to buy it, get it ordered, get it built now in the cold weather, get it uh, painted. And one of the things that we teach in the lessons that you'll hear is getting an early start is important because I used to operate a sign shop. For 10, 12 years, I ran a sign shop and I used to use paint to paint wood. Like you paint a hive box, I used to paint sign links. When you paint something, it might skin off and be hard to the touch on the surface, but chemically dry takes weeks, if not months. And bees can smell the volatiles coming out of that paint over those period of weeks. And when you put brand new bees into equipment that was just painted, it's not an ideal match. So the good news is you have time before April 15th, which is usually like D-Day when you get your note that you can come get your bees traditionally, depending on where you are. Um, it's usually middle of April that bees get delivered or beyond that. Your stuff will be chemically dry. So that's why I say to you, take your time, make your choices, but then get with the program, get your stuff built, get it painted, and get it set up. Um, I'll say it again. If you would, find chat in here. And just for those who are new, can you just send a note in chat? I'm new to the program, if you would, just so I know about how many new. Sam, welcome. James, welcome. Chilla, it is Chilla, right?
Perfect pronunciation. Thank you.
Yeah. Natalie, Mark, nice. Okay. And then help me with, did you watch the videos yet for January? You got a yes on Sam. Teresa, yeah. Okay. See you're okay. Mark, yep, you're in. Zoom user is new. Welcome. Okay. So I will say to you that there's no pressure. You watch them on your own time. And ideally, the good news is we have another meeting in a couple of weeks because of the way this worked out. We started at the end of January and we're going to jump right in the middle of February and put another one in. If you didn't, try to take them in the best you can by next meeting and come back with your questions. That's not to say we won't answer your questions now. Whatever questions you have to get started. Let me talk a little bit about the course design. And for those of you that have been here, forgive me. I'm just going to give a quick preamble so everybody knows how this works through. One thing we noted over the decade plus of operating the program is that if you go take a beginner beekeeper course from a regular beekeeping outlet, maybe your state or your local organization, they tend to organize it differently. We've taken the tack that we think when you know nothing about beekeeping, but you one day decide you want to be a beekeeper, you want to know what equipment to buy, know what jackets and gloves and veils. You want to know where do you buy your bees and what kind of bees and how you set up the bees in your property and all that. I'm going to tell you about varroa mites, which are really important concept to know about in beekeeping. It's a mite that attacks bees if you haven't heard of that. And you don't need to know that on day one. What you really want to do is get yourself set up. And one of the questions I always get, and I have an answer prepared for you if you want to know, and this is actually really interesting for experienced beekeepers, is how much does beekeeping cost? What is the price to get in? So we'll spend a minute tonight going over that. And for all you people who are in it already, too late. You can't get out. You're going to be shocked at what it actually costs.
Oh yeah.
Um, and that being said, we'll do a roundtable and go through and check in with everybody before we leave and just see what questions you have and make sure you get answers to what you need. Now, I should, and I always forget this, introduce myself. I'm Kevin England. I know a lot of you know who I am. I'm an EAS Master Beekeeper. If you don't know what that is, Master Beekeeper is like the bar exam for beekeeper. EAS, Eastern Apiculture Society, is one of the preeminent teaching organizations in the United States. And to get their master beekeeping certification, you have to go through a rigorous program. Very few people pass on the first time. It takes them a couple times. That took me a couple. You're a unicorn if you can do all 4 tests in the first year. But it helps you to really grasp beekeeping at every level, every part of it. So don't be shy at asking me crazy questions. I'm pretty versed at tackling whatever you have. And if I don't know, I promise you, I'm not trying to be a savant. I'll tell you I don't know, but we'll go get you an answer. The other thing that I want to say about this program, we teach conventional beekeeping. Conventional beekeeping means using Langstroth hives. You could use 2 deeps and mediums above them if you want. You could use 3 mediums, all medium setup, if you know what these things mean as a new beekeeper. If not, the lessons are going to break that down for you. What we don't do is teach you how to use a top bar hive or how to use a Layens hive or a Warre hive or a Sun hive or all those weird things that sometimes people get in their mind that they want to start beekeeping that way. There's a reason behind that. Langstroth hives are the most used hives in the world. And all of the you people who keep bees can talk to all the other people. And when you ask them about Langstroth questions, they know the answer to that. But if you ask about a top bar hive, or especially something exotic like a Warre, there's a very small community of people who know how to use them. What we recommend is you start with Langstroth for 2-3 years. Get yourself acclimated to how to keep bees, keep them alive, manage them, inspect them, and all of that. And then, if you want to venture out and try other forms of hive formats, by all means. Now, if you've come here and you have a top bar hive, you're more than welcome to stay. And if you want to ask me on the side, I can guide you. But we don't teach that mainstream. And we try not to distract the message here by going crazy down the rabbit hole on things that people aren't ever going to do because most of you will never run a top bar hive. I have top bar hives. I have Layens hives. I have a flow hive. So some of you will come in here and say, I bought a flow hive. Is that okay? Yes, that's a Langstroth hive, but it has a specialty honey chamber. We'll talk about that if you need to. When it comes to buying bees, which is the next question you're probably really interested in, most of the time, we would recommend to you that you buy a nucleus hive and you start with 2 hives. And I promise you, the people who returned from last year will tell you the value of having 2 hives. And those who don't have 2 hives would say, boy, I wish I would have had 2 hives. Now, look, sometimes, and I'm about to show you how expensive it is, that's not a way to start for you. That's okay. But if you can swing it, invest in 2. You learn twice as fast. You are able to see the difference when a hive is not performing because you rarely get 2 duds, but to get 1 dud and see it and go, okay, this one's not working very well. And you could use the second one, which is working really well, sometimes to fix the problem for the first one. If you don't have that, then you have to kind of punt and figure out a different alternative. So I'm going to give you a couple of the nuggets for buying so you can get the frame of mind. And this goes to even the seasoned folks. And I said this in the opening when we were having a conversation before we started. I'm not a shill for the big companies, but I would say there's something that the big companies always do really well, which is the base equipment. Buy your hive kit from a Dadant, a Manlake, Better Bee, pick your provider. One of the ways that I suggest you buy your equipment is with one of these. This is a beekeeping catalog. They're the best way to buy your equipment because you can read the information and it's extremely well organized. What you're going to see in the lessons when you get there is that, yeah, they have websites. Yes, you can do searches, but sophistication wise, websites are not up to standard. It's not Amazon.com. So if you're looking to buy, I would recommend you go to the website and sign up to get the catalogs and have them still send you to, for the rest of your life, you'll get a free catalog every year. My stuff started arriving yesterday. I have 2 beekeeping catalogs that came in the mail yesterday, one from Better Bee and one from Dadant. And it's neat to have them all because you can compare and contrast and look it up. And maybe the description in one catalog is not so great, but the other one covers it and you understand what the equipment is. And when you go through the lessons, there's one in particular that tells you the things you should buy, the things you must buy, the things you probably could buy if you wanted to, but you don't have to, and the things we don't recommend. And when you get through the lesson, if you have questions about that, but everybody needs a bottom board, at least 2 or 3 boxes, whether you're doing deeps or mediums, and you need 2 honey supers and all the frames, an inner cover and a roof, a hive tool, and a smoker with fuel. You can start beekeeping. Fundamentally, I'm being a little cheeky with that setup. So that's where you start. Go look for that stuff. Okay. Let me take a pause here and show you a presentation real quick and talk about a few things in visual form of what I am discussing. Screen 1. Do you see a river?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see if I can get the presentation to pop up, and we're going to switch. You see a price on the screen? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. This is I'm gonna go to the beginning. This is the full compendium of slides. That's me, by the way, in my home yard. We were supposed to start here, review tonight's agenda, overview, and so on. But what I'm going to do here is just page through a couple of key things, show you what the slides look like in case you haven't seen them, and then we'll go back to that price thing. I want to just get this formality out of the way. My company, Sunshine Hill Farms, created all this courseware in partnership with the Northwest New Jersey Beekeepers Association. I'm signed in as Northwest. I'm using their Zoom. So many key people in Northwest are behind this course and getting the content reviewed, prepared, and so on. It's really a joint partnership. We don't get paid to do this. We do this for our Northwest members, and it became something that other people heard about, and they asked us to expand it, and we opened it to New Jersey, and then people from other states, and you heard someone's in from North Carolina, had somebody sign up from the UK. I'm not sure if they're here. So we have Canadians and South Americans and all over the United States dialed in tonight. I'm telling you, it's kind of weird. And there's over 200 and something members of the program right now. I want to just go through and I'll stop in here and talk about a couple different things. This is 2 deeps, 2 mediums. And this breaks down what you need to buy: a bottom board, 2 10-frame deeps with the frames, 2 mediums for your honey supers in inner cover and in outer cover. This situates enough area for the bees to live in. These 2 bottom boxes is the house for the bees. It's called the brood nest. Brood is where they raise their young. And then the honey supers on top, because of the proclivity of bees to hoard honey, Italian honeybees in particular, they will store excess honey for you. And we've devised a system of putting boxes super to the brood nest, and they fill the honey and we harvest the honey out of here. And it still leaves enough honey in the brood nest for them to overwinter when you do it well. This is the alternative. You can buy an all medium setup. Do note that with this setup, you have deep frames. Deep is what a tall box is called, and medium frames. And they're different. They're different dimensions. Nowadays, and before you buy your equipment, do take this suggestion very strongly. Mediums are the way to go. There are so many people who start beekeeping using deeps and eventually get to the point of like, I'm going to switch to all mediums. The reason being is that if this box is full of bees and honey, it could weigh up to 100 pounds, maybe even more. This one can weigh 60 to 80 when it's full. That's a lot of weight, especially when you're lifting off the top of a hive and trying to bring it down to the ground. And just from the save your back and lightweight, mediums are the way almost everybody is going these days. It wasn't designed this way originally, but beekeepers got creative and said, you know, if I switch my stack to this, I have all the same equipment. I could use my frames in every box, and this works great. And look, the bees will live in 3 boxes instead of 2. That's really the only trade-off, which is not a problem. So if you're buying equipment, one of the strongest recommendations, I'd hate to not tell you this and have you come back later and say, you know, I wish you would have told me to buy all mediums. We're leaning towards all mediums because that's the go-to. One of the difficulties in the past was when you buy bees in a nucleus colony, they only came in deeps. But nowadays, so many people use mediums that you could talk to your provider, and your provider will likely be able to sell you nukes that are in medium frames. There's one other thing that's out there. This is an 8-frame box. 8 frames are same as a 10-frame, 2 deeps, 2 mediums, but there are only 8 frames in the box. That's for weight purposes. There's still enough room to accommodate the nest, although it's a little crowded. You're going to see in the catalogs, and it's worth mentioning, a new format to the United States in the last 10 years, which is high-density polystyrene. These are a fantastic idea. I've switched a lot of my operation over to. They still are considered rather exotic, but they insulate the bees really well. They keep them cooler in summer and better, of course, because it's insulated and it retains the heat in winter. They're very durable. They're relatively the same price, maybe sometimes less, sometimes more. And weight-wise, they're on par or lighter than wood. If you want to ask about these, pull me to the side and I'll tell you about that. Okay, so now I just want to take a moment and run to slide number 56. These are all the parts and pieces. This is what's in the lesson. It explains what all the things are. It tells you how to buy. Some of what I told you, use the catalog, but also look at the website. There's one thing I want to talk about real quick too. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? What if you bought your stuff already? Go with it. If you didn't, if I say something to you that you're like, oh my gosh, I bought all the stuff already, and that's not what I did. Talk to me. I'll tell you if you're okay, but chances are you'll get by. If you already bought deeps and you decide, and I just told you to buy mediums and you're going to fret over that, don't. Just go with the deeps, and down the road, as you refresh your equipment, you can switch over. One thing I will say to you is don't buy your stuff from Amazon or from cheap vendors. The Amazon stuff coming from overseas has terrible tolerances, and bees live and die by tolerances in the box. There's a thing you're going to learn about called bee space. If it's too big, they build wax across it. If it's too small, they close it with propolis. Where that comes in from a practical standpoint for you as a beekeeper is, let's say the top bars don't sit in the top box over the bottom box underneath. Well, they glue them together. And when you go to pull the frame out with your hive tool, it's stuck and it won't come out. And then you end up squishing bees and banging the boxes and aggravating the bees. And it just becomes a real difficult problem for you doing inspections and working with the bees. When you buy your stuff from Better Bee, their boxes, their frames, and all of that are super tight tolerances so that they don't violate bee space. The stuff you buy from Amazon, not so much. Time and time again, we've encountered beekeepers who got a kit given to them, or they wanted to save a little money, but in the end, they have buyer's remorse. The last thing to say about Amazon is you never know what the wax is that comes with your frames. It's just not a good idea. If the wax is paraffin and not beeswax, bees won't build on it. One of the hardest things to start beekeeping is to get your bees to build all the frames out with honeycomb. If they're reticent to build on it because the wax is not pure, then you're not in a good place there. Okay, I was going to say to you, this is what it's going to cost you to get started. If you buy 2 hive kits and you buy the basic equipment, I'm talking about feeders, frame hanger, the things that we recommend, queen marking pens, stick lighters, you're in for about $1,000. The thing about that is that doesn't include your protective gear, which is your suit, your veil, your jacket, and things like that. These are the basics. Get in. If you go a little further than that, there's nice to haves. It would be nice to have a aluminum bench to take your hive box off and set it on the bench so that you don't put it down on the ground. And there's other things like that you could buy. If you go a little bit further, we've done the math for you, it's probably another 500. And if you add the numbers in the spreadsheet, you could see what's included here. It's 1531. Now to go even further, at some point, you're going to have to harvest honey. You're going to spend at least $500 to buy the stuff to get the honey off of the hive and uncap it and extract it. If you buy an extractor, which is a motorized machine to fling the honey out, you're in for about $1,500. So all in, $3,500. When you start adding up all the things that you have in a hide kit after you accumulate it for a year or two, this is about what you're looking at. So just kind of keep that in mind as to what it's going to cost. That's one of the key questions I always get on the first night. When you buy your stuff, buy good stuff. You're going to have this stuff for a long time. And when you have it for a long time, you want it to last. If you have the option between regular grade and select grade, the wood is literally better in select grade, and you will do better for the way the boxes come together. They don't warp, they don't twist, they don't have knots in it. They paint easier and all that other stuff. Now, let me not tell you you have to. There's no have to. You can get by with middle of the road stuff. And I'm one of those people that good enough is perfect. But in this case, for certain things, especially the wooden boxes, I try to buy a better quality. I'm going to reiterate this one more time, and then I'm going to get off the bandwagon. Fabrication and tolerances matter, and bigger manufacturers address quality control. And the other thing is they're beholden to the beekeepers. They deal with them every day, face to face and or on the phone or whatever, and they know what beekeepers want. Beekeepers, boy, we can be a vocal group. So they add, they step up to the task, you know. Now, I'm not saying, you know, Man Lake, Data, Beta Bay, there's other ones, you see them listed there. I'm not saying don't use your local. If you have a good local supplier and you can go down and put on a bee suit and feel how it fits and all of that stuff, by all means, but they're few and far between. This is the thing about Amazon. It's just not going to match the net. You don't get any support for the products, and the stuff is fraught with peril. Okay. For you new folks, I wanted to make sure I covered that core stuff. And I do recommend that you go follow through with the rest of it and get a sense of the things you should buy. And I'm going to stop presenting here. I can figure out where and come back to the Brady Bunch wall and say, I'd like to open the floor initially to the new folks and ask you to just hop into chat and let us know if there's anything burning questions that, you know, you'd like some guidance on, so that when you go off to your next adventure, you have some help from us. Is there anything anybody is wondering about what they came to this meeting to get the answer to? I bought Hoover hives last year, would not recommend equipment, started splitting in the middle of winter. Oh, that's funny, because I had heard that they were actually pretty decent.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when the bees are starting to, build up in the springtime, and well, I'll just talk about last year. I had a lot of drone comb,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of freaked me out. It was only my second year having bees, and I still don't know if I managed it correctly. And I was wondering if you could talk about that.
Yeah, so job number one for a new beekeeper is get the hive built out the proper way. You want to build the first box, get them to build from frame 1 to frame 10. And along the way, make sure that the queen is operating the way she's supposed to, because sometimes in the first year, you find problems with the queens that you get on your purchase, and you just need to make sure that you keep an eye on that. Once you get the 10 frames built and you're comfortable to put the second box on, you're going to go from frame 11 to 20 and go through the routine again on the second box, trying to get high quality comb. One of the things you mentioned is they built drone brood comb, right? That's okay.
Yeah,
They're going to build
it
drone
was a
brood.
nuke. It
That's
was a nuke that I bought
okay.
and it just exploded.
If they build drone brood, that's okay. The bees will use that just as suitable as worker comb. You'll have a lot of drones in the hive, and that is just a byproduct of the way the bees behave based on whatever the queen is doing. There's things that influence the behavior of the colony when they build a lot of drones. It could be genetics, it could be the resources coming in, it could be the space allocation. And every hive is like a child. It's totally different, has its own personality. You could have one hive sitting right next to another hive, and this one builds drones like crazy and has 7 billion drones in it, and the other one doesn't. And that's okay. It's whatever they choose to do as a superorganism. So is your concern that you have a lot of drone brood?
Um, well, there was a lot of comb, a lot of drone comb, and I didn't know. I scraped it out like as best I could
Yeah.
when I saw it, but I didn't know if that was the right thing to do. Um,
Well, we'll talk about as the season progresses something called integrated pest management, where people purposely pull drone brood out and replace it during the height of the season so that comb can be built and get worker in return, worker comb. Drone brood is a matter of preference. Some people like to have a lot of drone brood, honeycomb, meaning the bigger cells, because the boys are bigger than the girls, in their comb, and others don't like it. One tip for everybody is as you go through the season and you head into winter, if you're going to overwinter your hives, if you have a proclivity for um, different makeup of frames, what's on them. You don't like the honeycomb on this one because it was built funny to you. Rotate it to the outside, and then if you can, rotate it down to the bottom box. Here's how that works, Teresa. When you get to spring and the bees have pushed all the way up and are sitting up under the inner cover, you could take the top box off, go into the bottom and pull out all the frames that you didn't like that you stashed down there in the bottom at the end of fall and put new fresh ones in with foundation. And those bees will be banging ready to go in the spring to build you new fresh comb and replace the kind that you didn't like. So if you culled all that comb and you want to rebuild it in the spring, if your bees are still going, you got a great opportunity to get it all sorted out.
Kevin,
thank you.
Kevin, I'm really curious. I mean, I can't open my hives now for certain, but when do you look in the hives to see how they're doing? I mean, I'm dying of curiosity to see how they're doing. And I'm not going to open them. I'm not saying
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I really was wondering, hoping
I'm
you
with
would.
you on that. I think the same thing now. All of you beekeepers know that, like, and we live and die by the weather. Like 2.5 weeks ago, we had a 3 day, like 50, 60 degree across the mid-Atlantic. We were all like, what's going on? We were all standing out looking at our hives, but I didn't open them that day. And I don't know. Sometimes they can fool you as to what's coming and going, but you have the right answer there, Deborah. Is don't open your hives in winter unless you feel like there's
Oh
something
my God, I
bad
would
going
never.
on.
I mean, I would never open
Yeah.
my eyes in winter. But when do you start looking, and how do you know
I would
when
look
to order
in the
beef?
late when you're going to get to February timeframe, typically,
Right.
maybe early March. Every year is different, where you start to get those couple spring-like days where you can go out in a long sleeve shirt and be comfortable. You'd be perfectly fine to take the roof off, look down through the hole, and on those subsequent, and this is important, subsequent warm days where there's two or three of them in a row, as spring is like teasing you, you can crack that inner cover and break the seal, look down, see how the bees are doing, check that they don't need emergency food and throw a little food on if that's the situation, and put them back together. And the key to it is if it's 50, 60 degrees on this day that you did it, and it's 50, 60 on the next day and the day after, if you break the propolis seals, which keep the cold out, they'll be able to mend that. But if it's 40, 50, 60 degrees this day and it turns to 30 the next day, they're going to go back to the cluster, and all that stuff that you opened up has the possibility of leaking cold air in. Will it be the end of them? No, it won't be, but it's always better, to your point. I think you're right, to not open your hives if you can. The goal here and what we teach in this program is leave your bees fat and happy with 60 to 80 pounds in a healthy colony in fall, and you'll see them on April 15th or, whenever the weather breaks. But up until that point, you should have the utmost confidence that you don't need to open your hives and look at them. Now, take the roof off and look in the hole. That's okay. That's really not going to hurt them. You'll leak a little heat out, but it's not going to be the end of the world. Take the roof off, take the cover off, and it's 40 degrees. All the heat goes out. You put the cover back on, and they have to build all day to replace the heat that they lost. And that's a pretty stressful thing on bees that are just trying to eke their way into the season. So I saw Fran phone borescope. I have one of those. No, it's in the garage. You could buy them. They're really cheap. You plug the thing into your phone and you take the borescope and you snake it up in between. And when the head gets up to the cluster, the bees come down and look at it, right? What you don't do, for all of you that do have hives, is go out and bang on your hive in the cold. Don't do that. The result would be that the guard bees, and yes, there are some guard bees, may come down to the entrance and come out to see what's going on. And as soon as they get on that cold woodenware outside of the hive, they'll chill. They could chill to the point where they're below a point where they're operational, and they'll end up dying on the bottom board just to come out and see what's going on. Take one for the team. So don't bang on it. If you really want to know and you don't know, 2 foolproof ways and a third one to try. Beyond the borescope, which you stick in the hive, right? One is use a FLIR camera. Most of the time when you shoot a hive with a FLIR and you walk around, you can eventually get the heat signature pick up. You'll see it through the wood. The second one is a stethoscope to the woodenware. You can hear the bees knocking around in there. Okay. The foolproof one, which costs a little money, is to put a broodminder sensor in the middle of your hive. And it picks up humidity, heat, and activity of the bees. And you could just click on a website. You'll know all winter long whether or not your bees are alive. Costs you money, but you never are left for guessing. So, borescope on Amazon, I think they're like $12 or something like that. Yeah, they're pretty cheap. Okay.
I'm sorry. Could you say the name of that product again? Hi, Kevin.
Yeah. Hi,
What is
Vanessa.
it?
Bore, B-O-R-E,
Uh-huh.
scope, borescope or boroscope. They spell it differently, but
Okay.
it's a camera on a flexible rod.
Mhm.
They were originally
Cool.
made for industry, like, for example, when you want to look down inside the cylinder of a motor, you could put it down in there and see through the spark plug hole and all these kinds of uses, but plumbers use them and, they fall their way into the beekeeping world.
Thank you.
So I saw a question from Sam about electric fences. The answer is shmaybe. And I'm not trying to be cheeky. I've had bees in Hunterdon County in various locations the entire time since we started in 2008, and I don't have a bear fence. But bears are in every county of New Jersey, and they're active. And someone told me in the field next door to me while he was plowing for the corn, there's a bear at the farm across the street. It was literally across the street, but it didn't come into my apiary. So the short answer to that is, yeah, you probably want to do a bear fence just for peace of mind. Could you get away from one? Yes, there's plenty of beekeepers who don't. But at any given point, if a bear comes in and gets your stuff, You have to remove it and take it out. Move the bees somewhere else because the bear's going to come back the next day. In the lesson plans, I'm going to say for April, there's a bonus for bear fence. There is a bear fence lesson in there if you want to learn. And I would highly recommend, and the resource links are in that presentation, to look at the New Jersey Division of Fish and Wildlife. They have a great bear fence program information for beekeepers. And oddly enough, states like Alaska and I think it's like North Dakota, who have huge bear problems, have incredible programs that you could find on the web for building bear fences for beekeepers. And, you know, Sam, come ask me on the side if you want, and I'll tell you even more. I know all about how to build them. I like that. Fran says she can hear the bees through the 2-inch insulation. Yeah. I'm not sure what you mean. What about location, Natalie? Should you put bees in a field, forest, where? The common answer to that question, where do you place your bees, is you place them in the open, you place them in full sun, and you place them away from people, pets, the hedgerow and sidewalks and things like that, right? You want to try and isolate them as much as possible. Now, that being said, could you put them in the woods? My bees are in the woods. I think you saw that picture. I don't have open area in my property. So they sit in a thick stand of trees and they do fine. You don't generally have a problem with pests if you build your apiary correctly. And by pests, I'll add a couple to the pile. When I first put my bees in, I put it right in next to area where there was undergrowth, forsythia bushes, weeds, and things like that. That harbors stuff that gets to your hive, ants especially. The ants would come out and climb up and be there. The biting ants, they were tough. I ended up cutting all that brush back. So you want it to be clear around, at least like 6 feet around your hives. I have deer that live in my property and they walk through the bee yard all the time because it's an easy path for them. One time I had a deer get stung by a bee, get pissed off, like aggravated, and go over and charge the hive, and it knocked the hive over. Now I keep my hive secured with a ratchet strap, and the hive went plonk, and I stood it back up. It's the only encounter, and the reason I know is I had a trail camera out there and watched the whole thing on the trail camera. The deer got mad and ran over and, like, not head-butted it, but kind of swatted its hind quarter and knocked the thing over. The deer walk through our apiary on a daily basis and never bother it. And the bees don't bother them either. What you will encounter is skunks can be a problem, and catbirds, because I live in the woods, come in and pick off the bees. I do a funny thing, which is I have one of those owls that you put on your house on an old stand that used to be a fan. And every time I go out to the apiary, I pick the stand up and I stick it over in the brush on this side, and then I move it over here and I move it over there, and it keeps the birds away. They look at this thing and it moves all the time, so they think it's really an owl, and it keeps the catbirds away because the catbirds used to just come in and pick off the bees like nonstop all the time. So just little things you learn. There are things that you could buy, like sensors that are supposed to keep the deer out and all that. I don't think you need any of that. We don't typically see wildlife cause that much of an issue. I love that. Okay. I want to do a round table, but I want to make sure if you have any burning questions for new people, and I know some of you are going to watch the videos and come back with plenty of questions, which is great, but don't leave here without a question unanswered. All right, let's do a little round table. I have you all in kind of an order, and I'll just go that way so it's not pandemonium when I say who wants to ask a question. And uh, uh, I'm going to take guesses as to what I remember as to who's new. Deborah, you're first. Any questions?
No, I just it's winter. That no, I'm good. I asked
Yeah.
my one question. I'm good.
Okay. I You saw my email, Deborah rhymes with zebra. Did you know what that meant?
Yeah, I did. I'm gonna have to pick up the remaining of the class on the video, but thank you very much.
Yeah.
I started beekeeping. I took a class, I forget when it was, and I found these videos really, really, really helpful. So they answer a lot of questions and they're in good order. So thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks. I will say, as an aside, that one of the things we did over the years is make sure that we catalog the questions that we got, and we also catalog the problems that people have. And ideally, we one are thorough enough that we answer all the questions in the videos if you watch through them, and if not, we're here to answer them. And two, you don't struggle. The worst thing is that we know a problem you could encounter. One of the things you're going to hear me talk about in the spring, it's too early to talk about it now, is queen problems that come from new purchases, how to monitor and track that. It's more common than you think. And we know it, and a lot of people don't talk about it. But we want to make sure that if you're buying bees this season, whatever you put in the box ends up on the good side for you coming out of summer. And we'll talk about that. And I could look in the like Eileen. I know she had her days with that, and we'll get to her in a second to find out how things are going. So, Mark, anything for you? Thanks, Deborah.
Does this course do the New Jersey education you need for beekeeping?
That's a open question. I asked Megan about that, and I got a verbal yes, but I didn't get a physical yes. So you're the first one to ask me that because most people go take a beginner course somewhere. I will get you an answer for that. What I've heard, and I've talked to he's now the former president of the New Jersey Beekeepers, and Megan, who are the two authorities on that, is they feel this goes above and beyond all of the short courses out there and it qualifies, but nobody's ever actually asked the question, like, does it qualify? So I'll get you an answer for that, Mark.
Do I need to take a beginner course? Like, should I take the Mercer County course that Natalie's going to, or is this sufficient?
I mean, we're going to teach you everything that they teach you, but it's not a bad idea to go take a beginner course. The one for Mercer starts tomorrow. I don't know that you can get in that one, but the one coming up for Northwest, which is held at Warren County and Hunterdon County, you can go look at the NWNJBA. I'll type it in the notes. Website, Northwest New Jersey. The other thing for all of you, I don't know where you're at. Typically, your state or local beekeepers association has listings for training. I know that our state organization usually lists all of the training because it's a requirement, a law in New Jersey that you take beginner course. I typed it in the notes there, Mark. You can go to our website and there's a registration open right now for our course. Pretty sure it's still there. So, Jeannie's iPad and friend, anything for you?
Yes, this is my grandson Liston, who's interested in beekeeping. So he's
Awesome.
listed on, yeah. He's 5.
That's great.
I was wondering if you have a brand of FLIR camera that you recommend.
Yeah, actually, it's FLIR. The
FLIR,
actual
sorry.
FLIR.
How do you spell it?
FLIR.
Oh, okay. FLIR. I had it
Yeah,
spelled.
you could find them for your iPhone. I usually have them on the shelf, but I just had all that stuff for a teaching course I did recently, and it's out in the garage. But you can find them for your iPhone or your Android phone. They plug right into the port on the bottom.
Okay. Do you
They're-
buy it
they're
like
not-
at Verizon or something, or you? buy it on
No,
Amazon?
they just literally plug right into your iPhone or Samsung phone or whatever you have. They use the
Okay.
port on the bottom and a piece of software.
Okay.
And the thing that you plug in is the heat sensor. It is what reads the temperature.
Okay.
So
All right.
yeah.
They are not cheap though.
They, what's
You don't
funny
have
is when I first bought mine, they were relatively inexpensive. They were, I want to say 20 something, 30 something dollars. Now they're like 90 or more.
Oh, wow.
I don't know what caused them to go up so high, but
Interest.
yeah.
People are
Good
interested.
luck, beekeeper.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, have fun at it.
Okay.
Take a lot of pictures. Okay. All
Okay.
right. Eileen, anything from you?
No, not really. I put my ear up to my hive the other day and I can hear them buzzing in there. So I think they're
That's
doing
good.
okay. I was a little unsure of the weight doing the heft test. So now I'm
Yeah.
just waiting for warmer weather to maybe give them some sugar or something.
Yeah. You bring up a really like simple point. You can put your ear to a hive, and if you're patient enough to sit there and wait, you will eventually hallucinate, but then you can hear the bees. It's one of those things like, do I hear them? Don't I hear them? That stethoscope makes the job a lot easier, but you can. One tip is wherever your hive is, there's a predominant area that gets the most sun as the sun goes across the sky. And like in the late afternoon, if it's shining on the left side, the bees tend to move over to the warmth. And so if you want to know if they're alive, put your face where the sun is hitting the hive and you'll have a better time hearing them. So, but good on you, Eileen. Keep us posted on how you're doing there.
Kevin, if I want to add just some granulated sugar,
Yeah.
but I don't want to open the hot, can I put it over the inner cover? Will they come
can,
up
and that's
for it
actually
there,
the way
or-
they're designed. So if you go through the lessons, you'll see that we made a remark about inner cover design. A proper inner cover has a dish. It's shallow on one side, not flat, and it's deeper on the other side. And the whole point is the deeper side is supposed to go up. So you could do exactly what you're talking about, Eileen, which is pour sugar on the inner cover, and the bees come up through the hole and they have the space to go in and get the sugar. Now, one thing to be said about sugar as food, it takes a lot of work for bees to break down sugar into food. And they need water to do it, which is rather scarce in a dry situation where they're not out actively getting water from nature, right? Water bottle bees that go out, get water, bring it back to the hive. But there is water in the form of honey that they eat, releases water because, honey has some moisture in it. They sometimes drag that sugar out as refuse. They won't see it as food. And other times they'll gobble it down. So your mileage may vary. One thing you could do, Eileen, too, is make like a little bit of a slurry. Mix your water into the sugar in a bowl to where it forms like a really stiff paste and put that in. And what will happen is it may freeze, which is okay, but on the warmer days, it will provide both held together sugar and some moisture if it retains it. And sugar does capture moisture. It's hygroscopic. So you might want to just help them a little bit by putting some water in with it. It makes like a cakey sugar substance when you do that. You don't have to make fondant. And for those of you that aren't familiar with that term, you can cook water and sugar, boil it till it liquefies, and then you're going to add a little bit of acid, usually a vinegar or some lemon juice. And what that does is it helps to invert the sugar and break it down into more digestible form for the bees to eat. And then you can make out of that something that's like a taffy or a fudge style food. It's called fondant for bees. It's a little fussy to make, but a lot of people just make sugar bricks out of pouring water and sugar together and putting it in the hive. Some videos you'll see out there, people take a 4-pound bag, used to be 5, pour water in it, let it harden up, and then they slice it off with a bread knife and put it in slices on, like flat pieces of toast in the hive. So yes, you can feed dry sugar on top, Eileen.
I just wasn't sure when it's still cold if they'll come up to even get it.
Most of the time they will stay on the cluster until they have a chance to break. It's really only going to be on those rare warm days. Although once it gets to 45, if the cluster is big enough, that might generate enough heat that a couple stragglers will go up there and get it. So even though it doesn't really like get to one of those 60-degree days, even on 45-degree weather, sometimes the bees will find a way to get operative. They can run up there, sneak a little snack, and run back down and join the party. One thing I didn't mention, by the way, telling whether your bees are alive. I don't know who sells these. I'm sure you could find them if you dig. I have 2 hives in my apiary that have clear Lexan inner covers. Instead of wood panel, it has clear plastic. And when I take people out in the wintertime to show them the bees, I pull the roof off and they can see down through and see the bees underneath the clear plastic. And you know for sure that that hive's alive because you can see the bees moving around. So it's a novel, unusual way to keep your bees. They work perfectly fine. They're a one-to-one solution substitution for a regular everyday inner cover. So just another thought there. So anything else, Eileen?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. But one of the things I'll say to all of you is that, as we participate through the season and you start to get into your bees and you're in them more, the questions are something that you'll really learn a lot from what people are seeing and the questions they ask. It's a little weird in the middle of winter to, think of bee questions, but it gets really interactive when we get into the season. James Gleason, any questions for you?
I'm just wondering if you have any guidance about, what I should be considering when I'm shopping for nukes. Sent out a mass email to different providers that I got from the New Jersey Beekeeping Association.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting a bunch of responses. I'm not sure if that's straightforward. Is there anything I should think about?
So there's a couple little idiosyncrasies about buying nukes. One of them is you want to know what the buying experience is, and they do differ. And I'll give you an example so you understand what I mean. There are some beekeepers who sell nukes, and you take your nuke box to them, and they transfer their frames into your nuke box, and that's how they go home. And others, they give you the whole thing, the bottom board, the nuke box, the inner cover, and the roof, and you take it home, and then you bring them back the equipment. And others, yet again, will let you keep the whole thing. And sometimes you pay accordingly depending on the experience. Other thing you want to know is, were the bees treated in anticipation of your delivery? So you know whether they need to be topped off for varroa mites or not. Most of the time, they are treated, but you need to know. So you don't want to over-treat them. You'd like to know when the queen was reared. When did she come into the world? Is she a queen from last season? Or is she a queen that was reared in the spring and then stuck in the box with a bunch of bees? Pro and con to both of those scenarios, but when you buy a nuke, it's usually great to have a queen. And tell me if you don't understand any of this, feel free to ask for clarification. If I were going to sell you a nuke as a reputable provider, I would plan to build the nucleus box in the summer of the year prior and install a fresh queen into it at the summer solstice. The queen would lay through the summer into fall and then overwinter with the colony, and her first spring is going to be a banger. It's going to be a good one. And that is kind of like the perfect way to buy a nucleus colony. If, on the other hand, somebody has a bunch of queen cells from swarms that are starting in February, March, and they hatch them out, and the queen goes and gets mated, but she's not really well proven, but they take that queen and stick it in with 5 frames of bees that don't have a queen and sell that to you as a nuke, that's the opposite of you might not have a good experience. Like you would if the queen was reared in the summer solstice and is a proven layer and had a good overwinter. So, kind of get the backstory of the bees. How were they assembled? When did they come together? When were they treated? Things like that. That's kind of the basics. I'll turn to James or Laura, if you guys want to add anything to that. James Zadevsky's in here. He's one of our officers. So is Laura, and James actually sells nukes, so he can give you firsthand of a seller perspective. You're on mute, James, if you want
And
to say
James
something.
I've met, actually. I know James from the
Yeah.
class.
Maybe he's not. Any words of wisdom there, Laura?
Yeah. It's good to know where you're getting your nukes from. If you can talk to other people, other customers, that's usually helpful too. So if you belong to your local beekeeping club, that's another excellent way to ask around and find a reputable nuke seller, like James.
Like James, yeah. Yeah, honestly, that is really great guidance, because people who buy bees from poor sellers have stories to tell, and you'll learn pretty quickly who to stay away from. The good news is the majority of people selling in this area are pretty darn good. They do a reasonable job. There might be a clunker here or there, new person, doesn't know what they're doing, things like that, but a lot of them are, pretty respectful of it. Hey, what scares me more than what kind of nuke you'll get is how much they cost. They go up a crazy amount every single year. It's just astonishing how expensive bees have become.
So sorry, then I stepped away.
James,
But I
we were
heard you
talking
and-
about buying nukes. Did you want to offer any guidance for somebody as to the nuke buying experience was the question?
I sell mostly overwintered nukes, and I think that's key for. Well, it doesn't have to be overwintered, but I think you want to look and make sure that the brood are daughters of that queen. As Kevin pointed out, that you can get a nuke where a queen has been introduced to a frame of bees, and they're unrelated. They may or may not accept her because you don't know how long she's been in that box. Maybe she's only been in there for a week or two. But if you find an overwintered queen, then all the bees in the box are their daughters. The caveat is that they are going to explode rather quickly, so you need to be ready. You can't just bring them home, put them in the box, and come back and expect to take a look in a couple weeks or 3 weeks, because you need to be prepared to give those bees space to grow, because they'll double in size in short order. In about 10 days, there'll probably be twice as many bees. But find bees local, I think, is your best bet.
So selfishly, do you have availability for me to get on your list?
I am on a wait. I've been making a waiting list at this point. I've sold or made promise for all the bees that I feel comfortable right now. But because none of us know what winter's going to deal. So I've already lost quite a few. So we'll have to see what happens in the spring. So I've already started a waiting list. I think I have 2 or 3 folks on it.
That's actually a good sign, I'll say, on James's behalf, is that somebody who says, this is what I can promise to sell, has a good handle on it. Some people, I've seen in the past will sell, they'll promise you to sell, and then they don't have bees to sell you. And you're sitting there in June waiting for them to give you a nuke. So if they turn you down, it actually means they're more responsible than some of these fly-by-nighters who just get into the business to make money and sell lots of bees, but can't meet the promise of delivery. James mentioned one word said to buying bees that is an important word, which is local. Ideally, you would try to buy your bees that are raised in the zone. Now, look, if you're buying a package, they don't make packages in the New Jersey tri-state area. They come from Georgia or Florida. If you're buying a package and you have the option of placing the order for the bees, and we'll talk more about this next meeting, try to get on a later run. The first bees coming out of the southern states tend to be very poorly mated, very poorly produced. When the bees have a little more time with better weather down there in Georgia, where some of them come from, or Florida or wherever, you tend to get a higher quality contingent of bees in the box than if you get the spanking brand new ones that come up first of the season. So if you're looking at Spellbee, who sells packages, and they offer one the 1st of April and the 15th of April, the 15th of April is the one I would pull the trigger on. And this is the thing that I would say to you. Every year they get a demand from the northern states like us to make bees earlier and earlier. They push the envelope so far that the first bees coming out in packages, you'll hear people installing bees in like the 1st of April. Bees aren't even hardly ready for the 1st of April down there in Georgia, but they somehow got them into a box and sent them up here. So, you know, when you're buying bees, if it's a red flag to get them super early from the south, keep that in mind. And if you can, buy them locally. Bees in Georgia are not locally adapted to live in New Jersey. They have the whole summer to figure it out. But if you bought bees that started in New Jersey or Pennsylvania or New York or any of those places, they would be perfectly suitable for the tri-state area or the mid-Atlantic and do better physically, behave better, operate better, overwinter better if they're bought from the local region versus buying from abroad. So just keep that in mind as you set up your bee purchases. I say that, you know, one super seller, and I'm not promoting Grant, is Grant Stiles. He sells a lot of nukes around this area, and he has a lot of nukes to sell. And the funny thing is, sometimes Grant's bees don't come from local, but as a rule, I've heard a you know, reasonable number of purchases because Grant supplies a lot of bees to a lot of people, and people do fairly well with them. So he's probably the biggest provider that people know, and you're going to hear that name over and over, James. Teresa, anything you want to chat with us about?
I already asked about the drone brood.
Yeah, that's okay.
But-
You're allowed to ask as many questions as you can muster.
Well, I did just put in the chat where I brought my bees from, and my bees have really thrived. So if
Ray's
anyone-
Bees in Cherry Hill, which is southern
Yeah.
New Jersey. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
What's
It was
Ray's
very
last
local
name?
for
I
me.
can't remember. I know him.
He bought Joel. Can't think of Joel's last name. He bought his business. They were
Starnin?
Joel what?
Starnin?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joel Sternin. So he was
Ray's name is on the tip of my tongue, but darn if I can remember it. It's a tight-knit community in the region, of course. You get to know the players. So okay. Well, if you think of anything, Teresa, just send a note. Thanks for the note about Ray's Bees there in Collingwood. That's great. Nancy?
I'm a little concerned and I don't know when I should. What's your feeling on cleaning the bottom board? in a couple of weeks or now, or should I just leave that alone?
I
'Cause
would leave it alone. Yeah. You're talking about an operational hive, right? And cleaning it out for the spring setup.
well, no, I was like checking to see if I saw activity when we had that warm weather
Yeah.
in December, and then I didn't see anything. I did the OA, and I don't know. I'm just a little confused. Should I be helping them and take off the mouse guard and clean the board a little, or just leave it alone?
Yeah. So it's a good time to talk about winter checks. What do you do with a hive? Let's start with it snowed last week. Should you have gone out and done something? The short answer is, and maybe you saw some pictures on Facebook, hives could be buried in snow and they do perfectly fine. Snow does not bother them.
Mm.
However, it's nice as a beekeeper to go out and look at the bees and clean the entrance off and keep it unencumbered by snow. A little tip for everybody is when a hive is alive, any of the flying days that they have to make cleansing flights and also do beekeeping activities, they'll drag their dead out and things like that. You'll see signs of life from the hive, for example, because they'll deposit bees on the front entrance. That's how you know the hive is alive. The undertakers drug bees out and left them on the front door. Most of the time they pick them up and they fly them away and drop them, but sometimes they can't muster that, so they leave them there. I go out every once in a while to perform a couple specific activities. One, I make sure the roof is still on the hive. You must strap your hives, you must have a weight on top, and you must make sure your hives don't get tipped over. When you have ice storms and wind blowing and whatever, if a hive falls over or the roof comes off, it's the end of the hive in the cold winter in short order. They're pretty hardy. They'll last for a long time, but you never want to see that happen. So avoid that at all costs. And especially like this storm we just had did have ice and sleet, which breaks branches, which makes things fall on your hive if you're under trees and things like that, stuff blowing around. It's just good practice to go out and look at the hives and make sure that they're standing the way they should be. They haven't flipped over, blown over, tipped over, knocked over, things like that. I take a little stick and I go into the hole of every entrance and I pull out any dead bees and I make sure that dead bees falling off the frames onto the bottom board are not blocking the small little entrance that we have for our hives. Always. And for what it's worth, if there's an upper entrance, I might poke and look at that just to see what it looks like. But most of the time, it's fine. You have to keep fresh air coming in through the front of the hives. And if it could happen in an instant, dead bees fall and block that. That sets the clock ticking. So you should go out at least once a week, I think, and poke a hole through and make sure that that entrance is clear. Now, there's going to be dead bees there. Sometimes you can fish them out and pull them out with a little twig or stick, but it's normal. That's fine. You don't have to clean them off. Wait till spring. When you get to that day where you do your first inspection, you don't even have to go to the bottom board. When it gets warmer, you'll eventually clean it up. Or you know what? Guess what? The bees will clean that all out for you. It's always a good idea to check your entrances. And it's always a good idea to make sure if you run screen bottom boards that you didn't forget to put the insert in. I've gone out in the middle of winter and looked and go, you idiot. And then I go to the garage, I get the insert and I put it in there. It's never too late to discover that you didn't put an insert in and to go put it in. I want you to look at your boxes from afar. Some of us have older equipment. We got it from, and it has holes in the corners. You could take a piece of tape and tape that off and keep the wind from blowing through. If you've affixed insulation on it, make sure the insulation is secure and right. Just, do the once around. Make sure that everything's good. Once a week, go check your hives. Make sure they're in good order.
Kevin, by entrance reducer, you mean what do you call it? Reduction.
Mouse guard, entrance
Yes.
reducer.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Interchangeable term, mouse guard or entrance reducer. So It's not a lot of work. There's times when I go, oops, well, I didn't get up there this week. And then I go back to next week and I check out them and they're perfectly fine. But I will tell you, I have, and everybody does it. If you keep bees long enough, get into a situation where a hive dies because it's suffocated because all the bees died and blocked the entrance and the air didn't get through. For that reason, one of the things we teach in this program is to use a ventilating hive versus a condensing hive. Terminology, ventilating has an upper entrance. The air can go through in a small little hole, and it could flow through the hive, and it could flow out the small little entrance up on the top. And if the bottom ever gets clogged, they could always get air and exit the top. That's personal preference. There's a new push in the world to close the top completely. That's called a condensing hive. It's meant to control and do whatever for the water. We'll talk about that somewhere down the road. I don't want to confuse the situation, but just keep your entrance open. That's really the key to it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Tina?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep, hi. So far so good. I've done everything I can to insulate the hive, and I saw them out flying last week or 2 weeks ago, maybe. So, yeah, I haven't really looked inside of it since we had a really warm day at the end of December, and they did. I could see they were eating maybe a third of the Hive Alive patty that I put in there. So everything is going pretty well. The one question that I have is, I had a queen problem back last year.
Right.
I replaced her, and then I put in, I saw she's laying, so that's good. But then I put in oxalic acid strips on the bottom box.
Mm-hmm.
And the due date to take it off was December 28th.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't come off. So is that going to be a problem?
No.
Okay.
No. Is it a good practice? No, but it's a worse practice to open your hive on December 28th. So you can get it in the spring, slap your hand, and then, but that's how it works sometimes. Some products, if you read the label, they're okay to leave in there. And other ones, they want you to take it out when the treatment is over. It's 56 days, get your Apibar strips out, for example. And the reason being is the sublethal or the sub doses of the chemical that stay could potentially harbor some way for the bees for the mites to become resistant.
Yeah.
So they don't want traces of the chemical left. They want it out. And that's the risk you run. But oxalic acid is not one of those. They can't develop some sort of resistance. At least that's the common wisdom. So in that product, you're okay to do it. And even if it was something like Apibar, do no harm, right? The worst harm would be to open the hive, to get down there and dig that stuff out. Now, look, I have to say this out loud to everybody. Could you break a hive apart in the middle of December when it's 30 degrees out and then put it back together? Will it die that day? No, it won't. They're pretty darn resilient. You'd be surprised. Would it set them back? Would it stress them? Would it kill bees? Absolutely. But would the hive perish from that single act? It won't. But that's not we're not advocating go rip your hive apart in the middle of December. We just don't do that. So, yeah, wait till spring on a warm day. You can pop it out of there. I think I'm to Tony.
Yeah. I don't really specifically have any questions tonight. I have 2 hives from last year. I did see bees flying again when we had that warm weather, and more from the one hive. I have 2 hives, one that's really strong and one was a little weak going into the winter.
Yeah.
But I did see some activity on both. I saw some dead bees on the landing board, like you said, and I keep pushing them off and I see new ones. So I'm assuming that there is
That's a great
activity.
sign. As funny as that sounds, dead bees are actually a positive sign.
Yeah. So that's that. And I'm I'm putting together 2 new sets of hives. I'm actually painting them now.
Good.
I have one more coat to go because I'm thinking of trying to maybe get additional bees this spring. So I'd go increase the number of hives I have.
Did you see the costs? I just want to make sure you.
Oh yeah. No, I'm so far in now.
That's
It
like
doesn't
those
even
comic
matter.
strips of like, what? How
Yeah.
do you become a better beekeeper? Buy more bees.
Yeah. It's
Sorry, I have that candor, everybody, as you'll see.
I
It's
guess I'm
just
too
funny to
far into
poke
it now
fun.
at this point. So
Good for you. That's great.
Yeah.
That's exciting, actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
To increase. I remember
It
the
is.
days.
It is. I mean, because last year it was my
I
first
look
year,
at
like
Fran,
I
she's smiling, I know. Yeah.
and it was a good experience. But I mean, you mentioned earlier too about having the 2 different hives and learning from it. That was a huge thing for me too, because I had 2 hives. They were both doing gangbusters when I first got them set up.
Yeah.
And then the one kept going and the other didn't. And I started to have issues. And I think I lost my queen at one point, and they made another one, but it set me back and it never really caught up to the other one.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we'll see what happens in the spring.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, they lose a generation or two of bees to bolster the population, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden the operation is not as efficient and staffed, and
Yep.
you get
Yep.
to see it firsthand. That's the experience.
Yeah.
If you only had one hive, you'd either see that in full or you'd never know. Right.
Exactly.
So thanks for making
Exactly.
that point.
Yep.
Good. Okay. I think, to Jason. How's it going, my friend?
I'm doing well. So I had 3 hives going into winter, and at least at the beginning of January when we had some warm days, all 3 hives were very active. I haven't seen a whole lot of activity since then because we've had pretty solid cold weather since then.
Yeah,
But
same here.
seems to be doing pretty
Well,
good.
you guys are making me excited that you're nobody's like, oh, my hives died, which happens sometimes. So far, you're all doing pretty good.
So yeah, one of my hives I was a little questionable, but like I said, at least at the beginning of January, they were all doing, there was all activity on all 3 hives, so it was good.
You never know. Sometimes the craziest things happen. I have a Warre hive that I was sure wasn't going to make it through December, and it's still alive. It has this much bees. It's about half the size of a 5-frame nuke, maybe even smaller, and it's still out there. So you never know. That's the fun part of beekeeping, I suppose.
So
Um,
yeah, we're
Good.
excited. Our county has a beekeepers organization. We've got a beginner beekeeping course that we're actually starting next weekend. So my daughter and I, we took the course 2 years ago. That's kind of how we got started in beekeeping.
Yeah,
So,
good.
but
Yeah, pay it forward there, Jason. Whatever you could do to help out local people when they ask, pass
exactly.
on the craft, right? That's what we're all here for, hopefully. I think I'm to Jessica. Thanks, Jason.
Hi, good evening. So I've got 2 hives that are still alive. One is pretty thriving, and they'll even fly on days where I'm like, it's too cold, but they still do their housekeeping diligently. Like last night, they had pushed out maybe 10 bees or something, including one drone, which was kind of interesting
Yeah,
that,
there are
you know,
drones sometimes that make it to spring.
right, that he
You
was
don't think
still
so, but they
hiding out
do.
in there, and either he decided it was his time, or he got the boot. And then let's see, the weak hive has survived so far, even with the mite bomb in October. But yeah, the 2 hives are like night and day. And then for all of the people who are considering getting nukes this year, I wanted to say that I'm really glad I did get them from 2 different places, because I was able to start off with one hive, and then get them started a couple weeks before the second hive came along, and then that way I didn't have all my eggs in one basket. So yeah, the first hive is just a lot stronger and better, and then the second hive has had issues, one after the other with queens, with temperament, with mites. So, so anyways, yeah, if you can kind of like
That's a good
diversify
problem,
your
child.
sources, it's a bit better.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's a good report. Thank you.
Yeah. And
Um,
then the interesting thing is, yeah, when we do have those couple of good days here and there, sometimes they're all making a rush to do their cleansing flights, and then you actually get to see like, oh, there are still quite a few bees in there, or maybe not as many. So yeah, the strong hive is still, I think, more in the center, and then the weaker hive is like up at the top already.
so just a quick wave to the camera if you can. How many saw cleansing flights and saw spots all over their hives and stuff? Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully they didn't fly and spatter your cars and things like that. But yeah, it's pretty evident. My hives are speckled all over. But I have hives that are sit behind other hives. And when these bees come out, they leave their droppings on the ones in front, and all the ones in the front are just absolutely covered with bee poo. So yeah. Um, I actually the first day when it was warm, this is kind of weird, but beekeepers know it. When I walked up into the apiary, I could smell all the feces. You know what, if you've ever smelled bee poop, it gets on you or whatever, it has a distinct like sour odor, kind of, you know it when you know it. And the entire area smelled like what the heck? It was really kind of weird. Um, so yeah, all right, thanks,
Yeah.
Jessica.
It's got a riper smell that you
Yeah,
don't expect to, in January.
it's pungent. It
Yeah.
is, and it really permeates the air. You're right. If and I'm gonna say this and gross you out, everybody, but you could take your finger and put it on there and lick it. Because what does a bee eat? They eat honey and they eat pollen. And what they poop out is honey and pollen. So what they excrete is not dangerous to you. But if you ever wanted a sense of what it smells like, tastes like, as gross as that sounds, you could physically, bring it up to your nose, smell it, taste it, and then you'll get it. You'll know what it is. And again, if you've ever like wiped it off of yourself, when you go out in the first part of the season and they're out there and they end up pooping on you, and you smear one off, you'll smell it and you'll be like, oh, okay. Now, for the rest of your life, you'll know what it smells like. It's just part of beekeeping.
Mhm.
Doesn't gross you out. It just becomes something you get used to. Like, that that made it into the recording. I want to go to, I think, Jean. I'm not sure if you're able to talk to us tonight. We only have a handful to go here. Doesn't look like we have Gene. I think Paul. Is it? I can't read my. Yeah.
Well,
Paul
I'm not a new beginning beekeeper. I've been keeping bees for 18 years. So
okay.
I went into winter with 25 hives and I'm down to 21 as of yesterday, knock on wood. But I just come here to listen to different ways to beekeeping. I'm a master beekeeper from the Cornell course.
Nice. Good.
So,
welcome. Where are you located, Paul?
Pacific Northwest, Olympia, Washington.
Ah, okay. So what time is it for you there? It's 5:30?
About that time. I'm studying for the EAS upcoming test.
Very good. Then we'll see you in Kentucky this year.
Hopefully.
Very nice. Well, thanks for joining us. And, given your wisdom and experience, you feel free to chime in if you wanted to add to the conversation or talk about different ways to do things. I know beekeepers out there. I work with a couple of them. My son lives in Seattle area, and yeah, the climate can be different out there for you. We had a beekeeper in here last year. I don't see him here tonight, from Denver, and he's up in the mountains, which is another climate area. And we've had some from Arizona who is arid and dry and whatever. So it's always interesting to hear the perspectives of people that come from different places.
It's rain, rain, and more rain here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you have huge moisture winter.
Yeah,
dealings, right?
I moved all my Langstroth Hive IQ hives, insulated hives, and I moved them 3 years ago. And less honey in the winter being used, and higher survival rates. And with
Nice.
our climate change in the summer, I don't have as much bearding in that on the hives.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so what Paul is advocating is near and dear to my heart because I'm a person who strongly believes that somewhere in the future, beekeepers are going to switch to polystyrene hives. There's just too many benefits from the form factor to ignore. And I think in time they'll become understood and we'll switch from wood. But it may end up being exotic, but that right there tells you a little bit about people who use them, understand the benefits of them. So um, I want to go to Chilla. You wanted to add any questions or comments?
I am brand new to this, so I'm just learning and sitting in, but I do have a question. If anyone has tried beekeeping on school grounds and has any recommendations for starting something like this at school.
What kind of school?
I'm at a public high school.
High school. Okay. Uh, I've worked with people who have bees in various public settings, including schools. Um, it is a different type of beekeeping in the context of the number of things you need to babysit beyond just keeping the bees functional is quite considerable, but it is very doable. Uh, if you want to talk to me on the side, I'm going to put my email address that you can write to me in the chat. We might have a conversation where I can give you specific guidance because it's not a quick answer there. Do you have something already in play, or is this just something you have a concept for?
Just a concept that we're exploring. I'm trying to start a pollinator garden as well and investing in hydroponic gardens and thinking maybe beekeeping could be a long-term project. Maybe not this year, but perhaps in the upcoming years. I did see in the NJEA magazine that there are some schools that have had successful apiaries and also in the process of applying for grants. So that could be a way that we would be able to fund a project like this because of the expenses involved. But yeah, I'd be excited to continue our conversation since I know it's a little more involved.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It is an interesting conversation, and I'll give you a little bit about the backstory. Part of it has to do with the makeup of the school and your engagement and your responsibilities and insurance things that they're going to ask you for in order to establish that there so that they don't have liabilities. And there's a couple parallels to that. Keeping bees for corporations, keeping bees on hospitals, keeping bees on hotels, things like that. They all have different profiles, but they're pretty common, and you'd be surprised what it requires behind the scenes. So I'll give you a little taste of that, and then you can see if you could build a plan from there.
Thank you.
Sure. Anything else as a new person? Did you buy their equipment yet?
I have not purchased any equipment yet.
Okay. All right. Let us know if you have any challenges, and thanks for joining us. I think we haven't talked to Annetta yet. Did we talk to you?
No, not yet. Hello.
Hi there. Welcome back.
Hello. This is going to be my second year. I have two beehives and I have no questions for once. And my bees are doing fantastic. I know they're alive. I do check on them quite a bit. They've been hanging out with me here and coming to the house even in the early December, weather permitted. And obviously now they are busy keeping warm, but I'm very excited for this upcoming spring and just watching and making sure that they survive and then they grow and then hopefully maybe I'm going to be able to split them. I'll see.
Yeah. January is always kind of a weird period for beekeepers, right? Because you could see spring in the future. And I get to that anxiety of like, I start making plans and I get excited at the same time. So it's always nice to your report that you see the bees flying and you're making your spring plans, dreaming of what you're going to do. That's great. Good for you.
Yep. Part of the planning is to make sure that there's a lot more food for them. So plenty of kinds of wild plants and flowers and things like that. And I still have to make my way over to my neighbors and bring some honey. I was successful and I was able to actually get honey for the first year, which was very
Wow, that's good.
amazing. And they also ended up each with one extra super for the winter. So, they got some extra and I got some. So it was very successful 2025, and I'm hoping 2026 is going to be even better. But yeah, I'm going to make my way over to my neighbors and talk to them, make sure they know I have bees. They will get a jar of my honey, and I'm going to try for them not to use any kind of nasty things that they may spray the flowers. So
Yeah, nice.
planning ahead. Yep.
Good. That's great advice, everybody, is make friends with your neighbors as you get started. That way they are in the loop as to what you're doing. Now, look, if you don't have a friendly neighbor, maybe you don't go down that path, but bad neighbors don't become better neighbors with bees. So if you have some sort of challenging situation, you might want to consult with us before you put your bees out. Bad situations never get better with bees, quite frankly. That's a really important axiom. So thanks for that. Great report. We'll go to Natalie.
Hi, I'm brand new as well. I'm joining here with my friend Chilla, and I have a ton of questions, but I can't ask them all the first day. So,
You can ask as many as you want.
okay.
And everybody's going to learn from them. If you want to save some for next time, that's fine. We've got time.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I guess my first questions are like, do I really want to do beekeeping? I think I do, but I kind of jumped into this thinking like, oh, I love nature and conservation and honey, so why not? And I have the space. But I guess I would like to hear from people, is everyone glad they are doing beekeeping still? Or do some people feel like they've failed too much or they got stuck? And will I be able to buy bees? Like if people are selling out of bees, I'm worried about getting started and I haven't bought anything. And yeah, I guess we'll start there.
okay. Let me just take the first crack at it. The first thing to say is there are people who get into beekeeping and have no concept of what it is. And I kind of opened that way tonight, saying you're free to ask whatever questions. They may not get bees till the first year. In fact, some beekeeping clubs recommend that people don't, that they be a voyeur and watch what goes on and get understanding before they make commitment. And one thing to say, and I think everybody here will back me up on this, it's a lot of work. It's expensive. It's sometimes complicated. It's sometimes frustrating. It takes a certain constitution to become a beekeeper. And that's not meant to square you away, to scare you away. It's meant to just manage your expectations and be transparent with you. You're going to see over the next couple of meetings that you will get a taste of what it's like to set up and some of the considerations. The one thing I will say to you is don't fret that you're late. You're super early. Like I said, there's people who jump into this in the middle of March and April, and they somehow find a way to put bees out in the yard, and they'll find bees to buy and all of that. Ideally, you'll be proactive and not procrastinate. But even if it took you another month or two to muster and get everything sorted out, I think you'd be fine. What I'd like everybody to do real quick is just jot a note off in the meeting chat about her question. Is it something you regret in any way, or what would you risk? And feel free to unmute yourself. It might be pandemonium, but to offer some guidance. I'd like to be silent here and let you speak for the experience.
Yeah. I know for me, I took the course a whole year before I bought bees. Like I took the course and then I waited essentially a year. And during that year, I learned more. And then I started to invest in the equipment and got everything ready so that then when I was absolutely ready, I bought the bees. So it was a little bit of a longer haul for me, but I felt more prepared in doing that way.
Yep. Teresa says she studied a year before getting bees and was happy to take that approach. So you
That's
see
good.
just from our small sample here that sometimes people don't jump right into it. And other times people jump in with wild abandon, and both routes can lead to success. It's not right or wrong. It's just, your personal preference.
Yeah, I do think I want to jump in because I'm the type of person where if I don't, then it'll probably just fall away as a yet another unfinished project. So I do think I want to jump in. My other question is a local question. I'm in Kingwood Township in Hunterdon County, and I was wondering if there's any resources or people or anything that I should know about hyper local to me.
So the one thing to tell you, and for any of you who are in the Hunterdon area, Warren County area, is Northwest New Jersey Beekeepers is lauded as one of the most progressive clubs on the East Coast, if not in the United States. We rank pretty high up there as far as how we support our beekeepers. People call from all over the place to consult with us on our program. Right next to North Hunterdon High School, we have a training apiary. And if you really want a sense of what it's like, you come over and work in the training apiary in our bees, the club's bees. And you can learn, your learning curve is shortened considerably by standing next to experienced beekeepers who walk you through everything. This course, hopefully, is also fundamentally going to prep you for the ins and outs of the things that people don't tell you about beekeeping. That's why we're here, to put the content on. You're surrounded in that Pittstown, Kingwood area by about 36 beekeepers. If you ask the people here and the ones that show up as the season gets in, who's from Pittstown, you'd be shocked. It's like we had a run of like 12 beekeepers last year from the Pittstown area alone. So what I would say to you is one of the things you do as a beekeeper is come to beekeeping meetings for Northwest, which are held right there in the county library down the road from you, and meet up with other beekeepers and find a friend in beekeeper. And that goes for everybody else too. Find a friend in your local area, because two brains working at the same problem are so powerful. And, when you're having a problem, you call somebody up and go, what do you think about this? Between the two of them, the two of you, it's like that joke about, I don't know the answer, but my brother always does. Between the two of us, we figure it out. It's so much better when you find a friend in beekeeping. And the good news for you, I see I'm in Pittstown. I'm in Pittstown. There's more people in the call. So you have all these beekeepers that are going through the journey with you, and they're your neighbors. And I think you'll find that you'll well supported out there in that region.
And then a follow-up to something you said, how do I get into this? How do I get that hands-on experience at that training apiary?
Northwest hosts meetings in the spring, typically in the April timeframe, again in March. We do a June meeting. You just watch the webpage, which
Okay.
again was up posted, and you just look at the meeting calendar. There's live hands-on meetings announcements there all the time. The other thing that you can do is connect with local beekeepers and go visit. I've had people from this course come over to my place and go through bees with me here and there, and there's others that might be willing to do that with you. So there's almost always a path to opportunities for you.
Okay, thank you. I'll just put it out there to these Pittstown folks. If any of you want to private message me a way to contact you, if you're willing to let me come over and look at bees. I guess not now, but at some point. Be grateful.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. If you go into chat, it says to everyone. You can click the drop down and find somebody's name. Find Natalie if you're
Yeah.
from Pittstown and you want to send her a message, and she'll see it, but nobody else will see it. By the way, I didn't mention that about the chat feature in this solution. So, yeah, we're here for you, Natalie.
Thanks.
I live in Ringo's, which of course
Okay.
is a hop, skip, and a jump. And
Yep.
one of the things that I didn't mention for the Northwesters and for some of the rest of you, we run this course through. We do the live hands-on meeting. You'll see me and Laura and James and others at that meeting, hands-on, working in the apiary. You'll see us in the apiary training for the new beekeeper courses. But you'll also see us in the middle of the year. We do a run where we come out and visit the people from Hunterdon and Warren, because this is a Northwest program, to make sure you're on track. At that point, you have gone from 1 box to 2. We'll check your varroa mite. We'll do an inspection with you, and we'll kind of give you a mid-year checkup. All you have to do is send a note, yes, I want to visit, and we'll send a team out to you in the middle of the year. And what I've tried to accommodate is, I'll give an example. I work with Omaha, Nebraska. Omaha has their own team like Northwest, and they go out and visit their beekeepers in the program. Fran, you're from Omaha, yeah?
I
Aren't
am,
you?
but I'm in Iowa, so I'm like a dirty, rotten
Oh.
stepchild to Omaha. So
So I went out and consulted with Omaha. They wanted to know about this program. And then they have somebody local that runs and is their Kevin. He hosts these meetings for Omaha. And all the people come and join. And then they send people out in the Omaha club region to go out and meet like we do for Northwest. And we're trying to work with, I just had a call tonight from Richmond, Virginia. They're starting a mentoring program and they want to model it after ours, and they're going to go out and visit their beekeepers. And I've talked to Maryland and I've talked to Pennsylvania and others. The whole point of this program is the mentor visits the physical somebody coming out and checking up on you to make sure that the guidance that the program got to where you were supposed to be at the midway point is going to be arranged by your local club. Because we're not coming from New Jersey if you're in North Carolina. Sorry. Although if you want to host me, I'll come down there to Charlotte. I want to do last call. I see people are starting to drop off, and that's fair because we're getting to we have 4 minutes to go. Is there anybody I missed? I think I called on everybody, but I didn't want to leave anybody out. Okay.
And
go.
oh, hi. Does somebody else raise their hand too? I don't want to interrupt. Oh, somebody else.
Friend, I'll hold you. Go ahead, Ann.
Okay, so thank you. I went. I'm a new beekeeper, sort of, and this will be my 3rd April. So I started
Okay.
So I guess I'm still new. Started with 2 hives. Got a 3rd last year. It did not. It died. So I combined. So I had to combine that. And somebody from another bee organization came to help me, show me how to combine and all that. So that was good. So my question to you now is, I didn't do the oxalic acid this time. Is it too late to do that? I ordered Apivar strips, but because I know somebody who does that, but I don't want to open up the hives in the winter and put the Apivar strips in.
No, don't do that.
Okay.
What you want to do you have an oxalic acid delivery device?
I don't. I have a friend who's on this right now, and she did the drip, and she was going to come over and help me do the drip.
Drip. Okay. Let's talk about oxalic acid delivery just as a sidebar for everybody.
Okay.
The conventional way to do oxalic acid in this time frame from now till spring breaks and warm weather hits us is to do a vaporization.
Okay.
It's not customary to pour cold water on the bees during winter time. Now, could you do it? Yeah, they make enough heat inside the cluster that If you ask the people in the know, they'll tell you can actually do it, but nobody
Okay.
in their right mind actually does oxalic acid dribble method. That's what it's referred to when you use the
Okay.
water.
Okay.
You can use a vaporization,
Okay.
but what you want to do is find one of those days where it's warm enough that the bees are flying so
Okay.
that they separate from being in the cluster, and the vaporization delivers the oxalic acid throughout to all the bees, and then it comes into contact with the varroa mites.
Okay.
I could go a little further into what's the right time to do vaporizations. It's actually in the fall, not in the spring.
Okay.
It is typical to do a spring in order to knock any mites out that happen to have come through the winter so that they don't ramp up from the beginning of the season through to July.
Okay.
That's why you do a treatment in February or March when the weather
Right.
breaks. Right now, whatever varroa mites impacts are going on inside your colony's probably just living with it, and they would plow all the way through. And whatever you're going to do is probably not going to help them. It's going to stress them
Okay.
or
Okay.
distress them.
Okay.
So I wouldn't have it in your mind that, oh my God, I should really treat them. Wait till the weather breaks and then
Okay.
build your plan.
Okay. Thank you. And my
Where are
other
you
question,
located, Ann?
I'm in Medford in South Jersey.
Bedford. Okay.
So I haven't put any Hive Alive. So I don't know. I was going to do, but now I don't want to open it up and put the Hive Alive because it's so cold.
Yeah.
I mean, they were doing well, but I'm like, I think I should boost them, but I guess I'll wait till it gets warm and then put some in. Or I haven't fed them any extra supplements.
I want to clarify that for anybody who doesn't know what the heck Hive Alive is. Hive Alive is a product that's sold through beekeeping catalogs that has a seaweed base to it. Seaweed is supposed to give nutrition that kills viruses, is antimicrobial, antibacterial, and so on. Hive Alive, the company, usually sells a liquid form that you feed to the bees made from a steeping seaweed. I'm being rather generic about it. There's more to it, but suffice it to say, it's a liquid feed. Hive Alive, the company, has developed a food supplement that goes into hives in winter that is a fondant. It's a sugar brick inoculated with Hive Alive product. That's what Ann is talking about. It's been all the rage over the last year or two when they announced this product for people to put this food on the bees in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
Now, coming back to the answer, and your bees they've got what they've got, and when it's super cold, like 10 degrees outside, like it is
Mm-hmm.
right now, they're not going to come up and eat that food. It's
Okay.
going to be a food sickle to them, basically. When the weather does break, you get a odd 40, 50 degree day, which is going to happen. They might come up and eat that food. That's a perfectly fine day to wander out there, pull the lid off, slap it down over the inner cover.
Mm-hmm.
Don't open the inner cover, just put it on top and put the lid back on. They'll come up through the hole and they'll eat it. Somebody mentioned earlier that they're using Hive Alive, and I'm betting that's the product they have, and the bees are starting to consume it. So wait for a warm day and go out and put it out. Be quick about it. You know, I want to say this. Do you need a smoker when you pull the lid off in winter? Raise your hand. Yes. I don't see any raised hands. The answer is maybe. Because darn, wouldn't you know, you pull the lid off and just lean over and the first one comes up and pops you in the face. Ask me how I know. After a number of years, sooner or later, you're going to get one. A responsible beekeeper wears a veil, even in the craziest situations. Look, 99 times out of 100, you can pull that lid off and look down in there for 7 minutes and they'll never even peek at you. But that one time where one of them's sitting there and you startle them when you lift that thing up and it comes up and it pops you and you look like you got punched in the face, you'll regret it. So always, first off, take the lid off and be leaning away from the hive, not over it, to be inviting. And, really, seriously, how hard is it to put a veil on and be safe about it? Don't risk stings to the face. Even in wintertime, it can happen. It's when you don't expect it that it always happens. So, and wear your veil, please.
Well, when I went to brush the dead bees the other day,
Yeah.
I'm like, I was looking in the front and I wasn't wearing my veil and went right at me. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, where did you come from? So went back in the garage, put my veil back,
Yeah.
went back out. I'm like, son of a gun. So yes, I'm thinking he almost
Yes,
got
just
me.
takes a moment. It just takes a moment.
Yes.
And they get you. And look, if they're coming out, they're going for the gusto.
Right.
It's just the nature of it, you know. You're gonna get stung.
I
And
annoyed
you'd
her.
be like, you stand there like an idiot. Again, ask me how I know. You're in the middle of January and you just got stung, and you walk inside and you say, can you believe it? I just got stung. I went out there to look, and yeah. Anybody that knows me knows I'm the first one standing in the crowd to get stung. That's just the nature of my okay. Anything else, Ann?
One more question. I have a mouse guard on it, the metal ones with all the little holes, and I
Yeah.
put masking tape over half of it.
Good.
Was that the wrong thing to do? So keep
No.
Okay.
No, that's the right thing to do.
Okay. That's what I did.
I like blue tape. Masking tape works.
Oh, the
What you
blue?
want to do basically is leave like a little 1-inch square of opening holes and
Okay.
tape the rest of it off. And then in the spring, the bees will, if you don't open it quick enough for them, they'll just chew their way through that tape. So
Okay.
that's
So
perfect.
blue tape. Okay.
Yep. I like blue tape because it doesn't leave sticky residue on the metal.
I put the
Feel it.
other stuff, and I'm thinking, are they going to get stuck on them? I'm worried about them, like the sticky stuff.
No, they don't. When it gets
Okay.
cold and it eventually gets to the point where it's not sticky. And when you use the blue tape, it's such a low tack that they could walk on it and pull themselves off of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Blue tape is your friend. If you're really like worried, are they going to get stuck to it? You tape the inside, you put it down, and then you tape the outside, and therefore it's taped on both sides and they don't get the adhesive.
That makes sense.
Or you tape it from the inside first,
Okay.
because the bees from the outside won't go in the hole they know. So I think, Fran, are you our last
Thank
one
you.
standing there?
I think so. I want to horrify you a little bit. That's my job. So listening to your last Beekeeper's Corner, I had the same concern about maybe a little feeding and doing some fondant. I haven't gotten through your kind of lessons learned yet in that part of the podcast. But I'm going to be planning to do that, to get some fondant ready.
Yeah.
And we had a pretty good cold snap out here. You guys got nailed with the with the snow. We didn't get much snow, but we had about 10 below and a lot of wind. I'm in the Midwest. I'm not too far from Omaha. So at any rate, okay, here's where my horrifying comes in. I wanted to reduce a little chimney effect in the hives because it's quite an extended cold snap. So what I did is I put tampons in the upper entrances.
Okay.
Just to try to put something in there that wasn't going to that would basically block the entrance, but if they wanted to move it, they could, if it was going to be warm enough. We haven't been anywhere near that. It has been just bitterly cold now here. We're going on week 2. So I don't feel bad about that. I know my lower entrance has been clear. I do have things insulated with 2-inch, pink foam wrap, and then I have the 2-inch under the inner cover and another 2 inches on top of that.
Okay.
The outer
Yeah.
cover.
You're
So
good.
it's a little out of control. I probably, for all intents and purposes, have a polystyrene hive at this point. But so I did that, and I'm hoping I don't get into trouble. I'm hoping I didn't introduce a different problem. I don't think I did. It's pretty dry out here right now, and I don't know. Humidity doesn't tend to be much of a problem out here in the winter.
I have to say that's a first
Well,
for a substrate. But sometimes what people do is they take styrofoam, like a packing peanut, and you put that in. It's really soft and squishy,
Yes.
but it's insulative, and
That's a
the
good
bees will
idea.
chew through that if they want out. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, okay. It sounds to me like creativity is winning there.
Whatever. We'll see if it works or if I've just destroyed a whole bunch of
Your
hives.
zone has gotten just absurd cold. And apparently it's coming our way, right? By the way, everybody in the Northeast, where you think it's been cold. One of the bee researchers I talked about it on the Beekeepers Corner podcast, said the temperature up there in Alberta, Canada is negative 35 degrees Celsius. I'm like, I can't picture that. So
Well, if that temperature, negative 35 and negative 35 Celsius in Fahrenheit are about the same.
yeah,
They meet on the scale there.
yeah, that's not, yeah, that's kind of,
That's bad.
so. All right, Tiffany, I think I skipped you. Thank you, Jessica. No, Tiffany? Oh, there you go.
Hello.
Did I miss you? Sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm good.
Okay, no questions for you. As we close, because it is 9 o'clock, a little over. I try to wrap up by 9, and sometimes we win and sometimes we get a little over. I wanted to open the floor to James and Laura, our Northwesters, and just say to you guys, I don't know. Let me look and see if she's still here. No, she left, right? Yeah, for you too. Do you guys want to add anything to the conversation? Something that struck you as you listened to all this tonight?
I'm just really looking forward to spring.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
That's for sure.
I hope that we see some of you guys at the upcoming Northwest meetings. And it sounds like there's a lot of Pittstown people around.
Yeah. Laura's a Pittstowner. Must be something in the water there. I was looking for Vanessa Preston, is one of our board members also. She was in here, but it looks like she stepped away. So
It was great fun listening in. Lots of great questions and good bee chatter. And if you're in the area and you're within driving distance of Northwest, come to our next meeting on the February 21st. Doug Atkinson will be presenting about splitting and swarm prevention. And bring your questions, and we can talk to you face to face.
yeah. Always good food and friends at our beekeeping meetings. We end up chattering out in the driveway, as you can imagine. So
yeah,
come on over. I'm assuming it's at the library.
It's at Warren County Library.
Oh, okay. So for those of you who are in the Northwest Territory, we try to split the meetings so that sometimes we're in Warren and sometimes we're in Hunterdon, because driving to Warren or driving to Hunterdon from vice versa can be a haul sometimes. Our territory is pretty darn big, so I can tell you. So great first night, everybody. I really appreciate the participation. Bring your questions. I think as the season goes, and especially when you get bees, like I mentioned before, there'll be more and more questions. I think a lot of those who are here that came back know how much you learn from each other. I could tell you all kinds of things and will, but I think you learn just as much from each other and the questions that you ask and the things that you'll face. And as a community, you hear that our beekeepers who have been participating in the program sound like they're doing pretty good, and I'm happy to hear that. That's really the sign of success, is that we try to give you the guidance that your bees do well in winter. And look, every one of us is subject to rough patches. We have no idea what's going to happen. But you basically cross the finish line when you get to, say, March 30th or April 15th, tax day. If you have bees in the box by then you can go pop the cork, and you're going to head into the season with a full contingent of bees, right? And until then, it's pins and needles and apprehension and, is there anything I should be doing? And do keep that up, and come back and join us in a couple weeks when we have it. For those of you who haven't been able to delve into the lesson, please, on your own time, just go find time. I try to make them as snackable as possible, so that you can get a cup of coffee, and by the time you get to the bottom of it, hopefully you're done with that video and you can move on to the next one. And make sure you just somewhere find a place to track your questions that you think of and bring them into this session next time, and we'd be happy to answer them. And I'll end this with a little bit of a prayer for my friend Bob Kloss, who's one of our principal people in the club. I talked to him today, and he sounded like he was in good spirits. He's rebounded from his challenges, and I would be super excited. Like, it would be a great milestone to see him healthy enough to be in here in one of the next couple of meetings and get to spread his. The guy is savant smart when it comes to beekeeping, and we're so lucky to have people like James and Laura that support the program. And you'll see Russ Sprangle and Valerie Wampler from Maryland and a couple others that I know from abroad that come and support the program and answer questions. And I hope it's everything you need. And if you ever find anything disappointing, do let us know. If something doesn't work, let us know. We're here to try and improve the program. And it's really gratifying to see a lot of you come back and join us again from last year. And stick with us, and we'll be happy to have you. And thanks to everybody. Have a good night. And again, this meeting will be posted on the website probably in 3 or 4 days.
Very good.
Thanks, everybody,
Thank you,
for the
Kevin.
night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Everybody.
much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the weekend. See you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you.